Hi everyone, thank you very much for joining in the coffee chat today.
Hi everyone, good evening. Hope you guys are doing well.
And during the coffee chat, we would like, if everyone can be a bit interactive so that, we can receive more questions and you can share knowledge amongst each other. Good.
Okay, all
Okay.
right. So,
So whosoever is, new to this coffee chat session, we would also like to just give you a bit of background. So how it goes is basically it is more of Q&As from your side, and we address whatever best we can. So maybe to kick off, how we can start off, before we receive your questions, is we can address some of the questions that we receive from the students in our DMs. So, like one of the main questions which comes up is everyone who is appearing for September attempt is approaching the CFE September with like 80 days to go now. So, is it enough time at this point of time, even if you have not started your technicals? What should be the strategy from here on? So, how it goes is, although you are in mid of June, if you have the right resources, how you should be proceeding with the next 80 days is June end or early July, maybe say first week of July, focus on the technicals. So that's your first piece. Focus on your technicals. Try to complete as much as you can. It is always good to complete your technicals, before you progress.
start case
Yeah,
writing.
like you progress towards case writing. Like one of the main reasons why you need to do that, because when you start writing your cases, you will always feel that or maybe underconfident that I am not able to write cases because maybe I'm not good on technicals and stuff like that. So which is why try completing that as much as you can, then progress towards your case writing. Write some cases on your own and also get cases externally marked. Like there should be a good balance between both of them. Why you need to write your cases on your own is, basically you learn from your own mistakes where you lack. So once you write three, four, five cases, now you know. What the structure of the cases is, and then you progress towards external marking, so that external markers such as we also mark cases, so such as us, we can give you some constructive feedback how you can shape your cases better.
And in fact, the whole point is that once you start writing cases yourself, there will be,
बाम जो गई છે ના યાર કોઈ ગયા છે
yeah, you
Good.
can, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm
Sorry.
sorry. So, when you write cases yourself and debrief them yourself, that is when the actual learning begins because, when you're debriefing, that is when you're identifying what errors you are making and how you can improve,
Yeah.
right? So once you have written like a couple of cases, maybe like Raneet said, 3 or 4 cases by yourself, and then when you get it externally marked, even in the from the markers perspective, you get a very like positive feedback as to how you can bridge the gap between getting, for example, if you were writing cases yourself and you were only getting an RC,
Yeah.
right? How you can bridge the gap and reach from an RC to a C, which is your end goal,
Yeah.
right? So this is where practicing more and more cases yourself steps in.
Yeah.
In this call, like we have students who have already registered with us for our crash course and also the case marking. So like even for those and even for the other students, just note that even if you're getting your cases externally marked, don't just rely on those many cases. For example, if
Yeah.
you have like 10 cases that you're getting externally marked, so it's not like if you only write those 10 cases your practice is done. That's not how external case marking works. It's more like first you practice on your own and then you get it marked from somebody else who can give
Yeah.
you feedback, because when you are debriefing your cases yourself, sometimes you're biased, you can be partial, you're giving yourself marks or analysis or discussion in the feedback guide, which may not be true, right? Because you're being biased, you're marking your own exams. But then when somebody else does that for you, then you will actually get an idea of, oh, this is, this is what the mistake that I'm making. This is where I need to work more. So, that's the point.
Yeah.
And one more thing on the technicals that I would like to add to what Ravneet said is that We are standing almost on the mid of June right now. Like, set a time until when you want to spend on your technicals.
Yeah.
Because most of the students make this mistake that they just like keeps doing technicals because the technicals are very vast, right? There's just so much to cover. So no matter how much time you spend on technicals, it will always feel like, I'm still lacking this. I'm not feeling completely confident on FA. I think I'm still missing out on tax, maybe. So that is never ending. It will never end. But you have to set a fixed timeline that, okay, I'm only doing technicals until July 1st week. That is it, right?
Yeah.
And after that, I will revise technicals, but that will be a balance. Like you will write cases and revise technicals side by side.
Like a couple of points also, just to add to what Guneet mentioned. So one is, when like about the technical especially. So in fact, let me, just to give you a specific instance as to when you go to an external marker, by way of instance, how it can be of value add to you. So we see so many day one cases when we review, right? Like students tend to spend a lot of time on the quantitative analysis right at the beginning of the day one. Like for those who are aware about the day one structure, you are required to do some quants right in the beginning as to, how the balance sheet movements were and what were the market trends and stuff like that.
Yeah,
So,
like for those of you who know, we're referring to the like the strategic analysis that you prepare before starting with the AOs.
Yeah.
It usually covers your mission, vision, corporate values, KSFs, and then SWOT analysis, and then you come to the financial kind of analysis.
Yeah. So like that financial analysis, people tend to spend almost 15 minutes just on that financial analysis. Now, the key point, which we as external markers or, anyone should be adding is that financial analysis, although you're spending like, tons of time there, you are not required to, because, to get that pass for the day one exam, that is not one of the mandatories. There are a couple of check boxes that you need to tick off. So there are a couple of check boxes you need to tick off to pass the day one exam. So that is one of them, but that is not mandatory. So if you avoid spending those 10-15 minutes in that financial analysis, like only on the financial analysis and focusing your energy,
Yeah.
and like you're focusing your energy on vision, mission, and then directly moving on to the different situational questions, that would help you channelize your energies better. And we have seen so many students who do that financial analysis, but in the end they fail to complete that overall objective question, which is more of a hidden AO. So you did that financial analysis but didn't do that hidden AO in the end,
skip
and
the
you
overall recommendation at the end, which is kind of the most important thing
Yeah.
in a day one exam.
and then you won't pass, right? So yeah. So like that is one of the key contributor, I would say, or basically positive feedbacks that you get from an external marker, because in the end your day one, day two, day three, it is more around strategy, right? So even if you think, okay, I did this financial analysis nicely, but you missed the hidden AO. So these sort of inputs you can get only from an external marker, or even from if you're getting your cases reviewed from a friend or maybe one of your peers. But do refer to that external would be our suggestion.
That's right. Okay. So first of all, like we're assuming that most of the students we have today on the call are September attempts. Like, so are you all guys writing the September 2025? Maybe show of hands, or if somebody wants to speak up.
Hey, that's right.
Nice.
Okay.
That's good.
Thanks. We have a list of questions which we received from students. So
we don't want to go on blabbering like that. So like opening the floor for you if anybody wants to unmute and like ask something that they want to.
Anyone wants to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first. So I'm almost about to be done with my technicals, and I want to start my practice very soon.
Yeah.
I haven't bought your case marking course. Can I access cases from CPA website?
Yeah, you totally can. So it is very much accessible online. If you want the link, I can share that with you. In fact, even in the group, I can share after the call. So how it goes is you have the past year cases that you can attempt and mark yourself.
Yeah, you can do the debriefing yourself. It's just that you know, I'm not sure if like you guys know, but there's a feedback guide. So the feedback guide is basically the key. Like the feedback guide is what the markers, or even like when you write your cases in, like when you write your exam,
Yeah.
the CPA body institute issues this feedback guide, which is kind of your evaluator, right? So in there you have the various parameters in a question that you needed to meet, depending on which you reach your competency levels, for example, RC or C, and based on which your results are decided. So it's
Okay.
just that, like, when you're finding cases online
Yeah.
through the CPA website, this feedback guide is something that you don't get.
Don't get.
This is not available online. And the second thing is that
Perfect.
like Ravneet mentioned, you can get the case, the full case that was there in the attempt that you're looking at, and you can get the institute issued solution to it, right? But then there's another thing called a perfect response. Now, what is a perfect response? It's basically a response from one of the students who wrote that attempt.
Strong
And
response.
oh yeah, it's a strong response. So it's a response from one of the students who appeared in the exam and who scored like a lot of C's in that attempt. So even this thing, so basically feedback guide and a strong response are two things which are not available online.
Yeah.
But they are very helpful. Feedback guide is obviously very helpful because you can actually see that, okay, there were marks in this question for this thing that I missed. There was marks in the question for the
Yeah.
recommendation, for the financial impact,
Yeah.
and you can do your PNCs, because like
Yeah.
when we were doing it, we used to do our PNCs that, for example, if I covered only 3 pros in the question, but then I did a recommendation and I did a financial impact, I passed the exam.
Yeah.
But then if I missed on, if I only did like 5 pros, but then I missed a con, and then I didn't do the overall the recommendation, I only reached a RC,
So
right?
how this goes, Vijay, like, so basically the feedback guide Guneet is mentioning, so that's a Excel based feedback guide. Everything is formalized. Consider there is a question on calculating cost per unit. There are 6 parameters. You like when a marker is checking your case, they ticked off you attempted 4 correctly out of the 6. So the marker would check off those 4, and the answer would automatically pop up whether you got a RC or whether
Yeah.
you got a C. So basically, it is in a way very objectively marked, but obviously there is subjectivity to it as well, because those 4 points which the marker is checking off, there the subjectivity lies as to whether you discussed those or just attempted those, so there is the subjectivity. But so as Vineet was mentioning, so you can do those PNCs. Okay, in this question, I spent 25 minutes instead of 15 minutes, which you would have allotted to the case. So those 10 minutes, had you not attempted those 2 or 3 points, you could have saved time. So I am time and again, I have a tendency to come to time management, because that is what you need to manage in the end. So these are the key pointers. And even the example that I was giving you earlier on the day one, right? So that you can leave the financial analysis. Like, no one would say you this, that you
Yeah.
can leave financial analysis.
But how do we know it?
Yeah.
Because of the feedback guide.
Yeah, like through that feedback guide, even when you would yourself go through when time comes, if you do not check off that financial analysis, but do the balance of the paper nicely, you would still pass it. So that is how you know, and that is how you run. So feedback guide is important, not publicly available. And second, strong responses, again, that is also not publicly available. That strong responses, why it helps is you understand the parameters. Okay, this guy who attempted like this, and strong response are not the correct
Correct
responses.
response.
Those are the responses which a good student, or more than a good student attempted in that
And
case.
got a C, like
Got a
a
C.
competent response. So, you can look at their responses and you can be like, oh my God, he only
Yeah.
wrote like 4 points in one statement or 1.5 statement each, and even then he could score
Yeah.
a C. Why? Like, because that will help you with the time management, because when you see the institute issued responses, they are very long. They are 2-3 pager solutions for each. So normally students, when they look at it, they come to us and they have questions that, am I supposed to write this long? How am I going to manage my time? How can I write this long of a response when I only have 10-12 minutes? So that's our point, that you don't have to abide by the CPA Institute response. You only have to learn your technicals from it, right? When you're doing your case writing, you just have to see how they structure it, how they write it, how they attempted the technicals, how they integrated the case. That is all that you have to learn from it. But a strong response helps you ground and actually see the reality that even if you attempt a question like this, you can still pass
And
and get a C.
consider a strong response, like in a batch of 20 students who whose cases we are marking, we think, okay, this guy got C's in most of them, so we can share that response with the group, that okay, this student got a C in most of it. See this paper. So that paper or case won't be perfect, but that student, because he followed the structure, he checked off certain criteria, he did the conclusion, he wrote the definition. So, if this guy can get a C, so you would know, okay, this is the sort of, like, this is your expectation, because people obviously get anxious when they see the board issued response, which we call as the perfect response.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Anyone else wants to go next? Okay. Silent group today. So,
I'll
yeah.
go. Hi, guys.
Hi.
So I completed one round of reading the technicals that the tutors that I took with, and I went through one round. I made my notes, like compiled 1,800 pages into 300 somehow, and did the whole drill. But at the end of it, I feel like I don't know or remember anything. Like I can put logic now, but most of the technicals is like, maybe it's like because it's like it's been a long time and really not into the zone of studying anymore. So I want to know, like, then the confidence really shakes, because it's like you put in 2-3 months of efforts and then suddenly it feels like as if it's zero. I've not written a case yet, not put it into the application, but I want to know how to break the barrier of the mind, that because you don't remember anything. And I don't know if that's the problem with me or everybody else is also in the same boat, that after finishing whole technical it feels like, oh, you didn't do anything.
I think 2 points here, Parnika. One is, you would tend to lose your technical mind, or your whatever you learned with time. No doubts about that, especially if you are referring to comprehensive or very
Long,
big bulky books,
bulky
obviously.
books, yes.
So like that is why we brought our capsule courses, where you can complete everything timely, and then you get to revise also. But coming back, because you have already referred to some other tutor, so this is something which so this is a very common question. You shouldn't feel anxious about it. This is completely perfect. So answer to that would be, okay, you are done with that once. One is, most of your technical learning lies in case writing, so you have to start writing cases. So
I would say here that this barrier of the mind, it's just like swimming. Until you actually get into the water and you have
start
that
swimming.
fear and anxiety, you won't learn it, right? You can, like, stand outside and look at the water and be scared, but then until you jump into it, you won't know what it's like. So it's the same thing with you. I know that starting writing cases is you have to really be prepared. And because, like, many students just like keep deferring it, that I still don't feel ready. Maybe I should spend another week on technicals. Maybe I should revise technicals one more time before I actually start. But it's just like, you'll never feel ready for it. You just have to jump into it. The good thing here, or the one suggestion we would give, is start with writing a day 3 case. Right? Because, like, day 3 cases are normally short, right? But then there's varied questions, and the questions are not very deep. So just start with it. And the first time that you write a case, you will not know anything. Like, I remember the first time I wrote one day 3 case, it was, I think, a 1 hour case, and I finished it in like 40 minutes, because I didn't even know what to write. I didn't know the structure that I need to follow. I didn't know anything. I just read the question, made the outline, and answered whatever I did. But then when I debriefed it, that is when I learned so much out of my first case, because there was so much to learn in my first case, right? I didn't know the structure. When I debriefed using the institute's response, I saw that, oh, they were following specific structures in specific questions. For example, in the internal control weakness, you have to follow you have to mention weakness, implication, and recommendation, right? So we made our notes, right? We made our notes that, okay, in questions like these, this is what the institute is doing. Then in other FA questions, this is how the institute is kind of in FA, they're following the issue analysis, and then they are doing the recommendation after integrating it. So, like our recommendation is just start with a day three, write a couple of them, and then slowly when you debrief, you will also notice that, when you debrief, you're not only learning the structure, but you're also learning the technicals, right? Because, for example, it was a question that you didn't know, but you just like wrote whatever you knew in it. But then now when you debrief it from the institute's response, you will also learn your technicals. So just keep making those notes when you are debriefing your cases, so that later in, like a week before the exam, you can still go back to that case and revise.
So like just a teaser from our strategy video also that we shared with all the students who enrolled with us was that initially you have to start writing cases on your own without any external support at all. Why is that? Going back to the example like that swimming example which Guneet gave. So like you just need to start off once and then learn from your own mistakes. So you write one case, then you write the second one, then you write the third one. Don't jump to a day two case. Like that is fine. But you need to start writing, because unless and until you start writing, you are not, at this stage, if you skip a couple of more weeks, then you would be at the stage, okay, now I'm left with just, 50 days, 60 days. I am appearing in May 26 now. So
yeah, it will be a like a bad spot to be in, because then it will make you more anxious if you don't start right
But this
now.
is a very good time. Like we have been in touch with students, almost on a daily basis. At this time, students are still completing their technicals.
Yeah.
So you have, glanced through or skimmed through your technicals at least once, like 1800 pages. Once you have made those summary notes, right? Like those 300 pages are yours now. So you know the structure of it. So you should be able to revise those also quickly, whenever time comes, maybe in August. So would surely suggest you to revise those ones maybe in August, which we suggest to our students who have enrolled with us also. But you should surely revise those. But today, just start writing and learn, right? There may be a case, an intangible question comes, you do not remember the conditions. You may need to refer to those conditions, but after you have written the case. And, out of this, one of the other advice which also emanates is that whenever a 80-minute day three case comes through, even if you do not know the technicals, you still need to, sit the entire 80 minutes just writing that case. Do not go out of the case to refer to the technicals, or maybe, for a quick little break, whatever you want to do. You need to abide by the time, because that is how you are practicing. Because when you say that you have written 10 cases, does that mean you sat in exam like environment? Because if you didn't, then you need to start after the 10th case to feel that like exam like anxiety, like that 60-70 minutes when you need to complete all those 7 years. You need to feel that anxiety, because only after a couple of cases that anxiety will start to ease off.
And only after that you will start to see challenges in the time. And when you see those challenges, you will still have enough time to improve them. But if you don't put yourself through that complete process, then you will miss out on those learnings. And then eventually, like, when you are near the exam and then you try to do mock cases like that, sitting in that one go and doing it, then it will be even scary for you, because then you will be like, oh, I'm not able to manage time, I'm missing AOs, what am I doing wrong? And then it will pile up bad. So like from starting now, I think you should stick to the case timings that are given and just try to give it the way that you're writing an exam.
And like give yourself a couple of weeks, like say to yourself, okay, June, I'm just writing. I'm doing nothing else. I'm just writing and learning from my own mistakes. You need to give yourself some buffer. That would surely help. Good. That answers, Parnika. Okay. Sounds good. Anyone else wants to go next? Okay, maybe you can see the chat as well. Here. So,
Okay, so this is a private message. So Dikshita, to your question, you can reach out to either me or Ravneet anytime with your questions, right? So if you have any sort of questions, feel free to reach out to us on DM and we can respond to whatever doubts you have.
yep,
Sure, thank you.
No
no
problem.
worries.
And then I was just getting some insights on the registration process.
On the registration process, Ehsan, perhaps we will share with you a detailed video because it is surely worth your while to spend some time in understanding the registration process, plus also what day one, day two, day three is about. So we already have a YouTube video on that, so we can share the link for that. That would be more helpful for you.
We have another question. How do we manage time working full time? Please suggest.
And are you appearing September? Just checking. Okay,
Okay.
you want to take that?
Yeah, sure. So, like if you're working full time and you're appearing September, even then now is a very good time to start. It's just that when you're working full time, you need to, build um, a discipline basically. You need to carve out after office, whatever your day looks like. After office, you have to carve out a couple of hours, for example, 2 hours. Just start with maybe 1 hour or 2 hour daily
Yeah.
and try to sit for that 2 hours daily, right? Like try to make that a habit, because I understand that as of now, like most of the people who are writing their writing the CFE, they're writing after a couple of years gaps, and so it makes it very difficult to get back to your books and get back to that routine of studying and memorizing things, revising things. So it can take some time to get on track, but we would recommend that you like stay a little disciplined. Try to follow that 2 hours every day, especially when you are just starting with your technical revision, and when you're starting with this case writing practice that we've mentioned. Gradually, when you reach sometime in July, right, then like Ravneet mentioned, and you already know that the day one cases are 4 hours long and the day two cases are 5 hours long. So you need to, actually sit for 5 hours straight after your office. Maybe you could
Good.
Maybe you could do that over the weekend. You could do your day two and day one cases, practice them over the weekend, and then during the weekdays, you could sit for the day three, something like that.
Yeah.
But start small, build that up, and then build it.
Like
So
maybe out of
yeah.
my personal experience, I can share that with you. So when I was appearing for CFE, so I was working full time. I got like 3-4 days of leave, so not
That
weeks.
too right
So
before the
just
exam.
just the days of the exam, like 3-4 days of leave. So I had to manage everything by the side. So how I used to do it, as Guneet was mentioning, so it is about the discipline. You need to spend like, to be honest, so I used to maintain a track of time as to how many hours I'm spending in a day. So, just to see how am I progressing. So there were some days I used to spend 4 hours, like on weekdays, and there were some days I was not able to study at all. Could be for any reason, could be family, could be personal, whatever. But averagely in a week, especially weekdays, try to spend at least 1.5 hours. So that was my average back then. Because at that point of time, even today, what we are suggesting, if you are starting today, from your message, I can understand that you haven't gotten even to the technical stage maybe. So if that is the case, the next in fact 2 to 3 weeks, like early first week of July, should look like 1.5 hours, 1.5 hours average doing technicals until the first week of July. So obviously you should have the right resources. You would already know from the group that we have our full comprehensive courses where you are able to complete the technicals in 3 weeks, like 2 to 3 weeks of time, even lesser than that if you are on full-time leaves. But with your work, you should be able to complete the entire technicals in 3 weeks. So like imagine first week of July, you are done with the technicals, and then you devote time to cases. First, you write your own cases, and then you approach, an external marker, maybe us as well, for case marking. And then, at the fag end, or maybe, the entire September, the 1.5 or 2 weeks of September, you just revise what you did. So you just need to be disciplined throughout. But if, you would skip the next 2 weeks and then maybe start in July, you would, so this is a
It will be a
very,
little late.
yeah,
So
like this is a very good time for this coffee chat for students who, have been struggling to
to
study.
start,
But this
yes.
is still like you still have time. Like we
You
still
still have good amount of
good
time
amount
right
of
now.
time, true. Like if you still feel maybe your technical resources are too humongous that you are not able to absorb, like maybe reach out to us. Like we can surely help you out how you can structure your study path for the next 80 days, because time is surely limited at this time, because the more you delay it will get a bit difficult. So like discipline 1.5 hours for a month or so, and then you pick 2.5 hours. And when I used to attempt my day 2 day 3 cases, as so there were times that I used to cut off my office at like 6 7 p.m. and then sit for the day 2. And then that was one straight sitting that you have to give, because I am a sort of person who just wants some practice before the exam, or before he actually writes a case. So I truly wanted that. Like Guneet, on the other hand, had some leaves from the office, so she was able to write during the day as well. But I had to write, maybe 8 to 12, 8 to 1, like, something like that. So, but at this point of time, you just need to devote some small little time each day.
Yeah, and we know that at this time there's so many people who feel like, we're lacking motivation to
Yeah,
start. So like, for all of those, all, we have to say is that just it's only 2 months, like example, for most of the people here, we're all global CAs, right? And we've worked our asses off before. Like we've studied so hard day and night to stand where we are today, right?
true.
So, but for this course, just like think it's only a matter of 2 months, even if you're having to have long days, like 12-hour days. First you have office, and then you have house chores, and then you have to sit and study. Like I would say, just take that as an opportunity that
Yeah,
this is something that you can achieve only in 2 months of hard work. So
yeah,
why not do it, right? And it's such a prestigious degree. There's
yeah,
so many things that will come to you in life once you achieve it.
yeah,
So go for it. Like this is your motivation.
true. Perfect.
So
Good.
Can I go ahead?
Yeah,
yes.
sure.
Yeah, Raveen. So I was going through the study material and I wanted to highlight some of the important points, but those are passport protected, right? Your PDFs.
Yes.
So is there a possibility you could share the passport over email or somewhere?
Yeah, sure. Maybe we can connect after. Your name, sorry, just shows
My
as
name is Sandeep. Sandeep.
Sandeep. Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Sure. We'll get in touch with you, Sandeep.
Yeah, and the other question I had was regarding like the same like the previous candidate asked. I also work full time, and I have registered in the anticipation that I will be able to complete and go through once. But let's say at the last moment we make our mind to postpone our attempt. I heard is that is possible for us, and how late is it possible? And how about the study? I mean, the cases, can we still do
Yeah,
cases? Yeah.
that's a bad question to ask, to be honest. So
Like you should never give yourself that buffer,
don't
right?
give that. Like honestly,
I know, I know
like
it's a bad question, but
like
this
I
is
can
like,
like I don't know the exact date, but I can check online and not share with the group surely. But don't give that. This to be
Mhm.
honest is one of the worst options that CPA Ontario has. Like once you register, you can still back out. But yeah,
the basic the question actually comes from the fact that you never know how much time you're going to get from the office at the
that's
end.
true.
I
That's
do not know how much leaves I'm gonna get. I am hoping I'll get something, but I'm preparing like I won't get any leaves,
yeah,
uh,
right.
because yeah. So that's just what like my question was regarding your course material and case preparations.
Yeah,
I can still attempt all the cases, right?
yeah, yeah,
Uh,
surely.
All right. And my last question was regarding the CPA handbook. When we go through the summary notes, I also like to go with the CPA handbook and just mark where exactly the point that topic is covered here.
That's a nice way
So,
to do.
what do you suggest what is the best way, which copy of the CPA handbook should be used? It should be a digital copy in hand, or we should just print it out, or
Like
no.
digital is the way to go, because in the exam, for everyone knowledge as well, so you get a CPA handbook, which we call as Knotia. So you get access to that in the exam. So to your question, Sandeep, how you should be proceeding, should always use a digital copy. It is a very good idea, to be honest. Like once you do the case, then you can, when you're debriefing, maybe then you go back and see, okay, I knew the answer to this, financial reporting question, but let's see, had I referred to the handbook where this
I would have found the gap for it.
yeah, and then and when you should be using it is when it saves you time. So for a development, so in intangibles there is a specific question as to when you should be capitalizing the internally
Yeah.
generated asset. So for that, you would remember from the notes as well that there are like 6 conditions. So those 6 conditions, if it is easier, or which is always, like especially for this example, it is always easier and faster to copy paste from Notia. So you can do that, and especially on day 2 we recommend to copy paste from Notia, not all the conditions, but like where it is involving more effort. Why? Because if you copy paste, at least then, like you have copy pasted, say, all the conditions, then you can spend time in analyzing that, so that your focus is towards analyzing the provision and not just rewriting the provision, because there are no marks for just writing the provision. You need to analyze the provision well.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But Sandeep, one more thing I would like to say is that if you are able to print out anything at all, then do print out the notes that you have from the course, because
Yeah.
like if you print them out, it will be very easy for you to highlight, make your notes, because like if you see the lectures, there's so much that we are, in detail, we are talking about the technicals that we are covering, and everything is not obviously noted in the notes, right? There's so many examples.
Yes.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
So it will be better if you can print out those notes instead, right? And even for like Dikshita, I just saw your message. So there was a reason that we actually password protected those files for editing, because like we've had an unfortunate incident before. So like since then we started kind of using passwords so that nobody could edit it. So
Yeah.
like that's the reason that we've been following that approach. So it
Yeah.
will be great if you're able to print those notes
Yeah.
out.
Yeah, and like if you are able to print those out in the setting that we mentioned in the email,
Yeah.
that is very helpful, because
Review.
say for financial reporting, if you are able to see the entire financial reporting in 70 pages, like your mindset would be so positive that, okay, I'm able to do this financial reporting 70 pages, how many hours it can take, like just the notes, 4 hours, 5 hours,
Yeah.
that would really help you up your confidence.
Yeah, and especially, like the best thing about like I like about our notes is because these are the notes that we actually used when we were writing our attempts.
Yeah.
And on the days of the exam, that there's no leaves. It's like consecutive day 1, day 2, day 3. So you hardly have any time to
Yeah.
come back home because your schedule is something like you wake up early morning around 6 a.m. and then
Yeah.
you go to the exam center. You come back somewhere around like 3 p.m. You have some lunch because you're out since morning. After lunch, you would obviously take some rest, or maybe there's only a couple of hours left before you have to go back to sleep again for the next day.
Yeah.
So in those like 2-3
5
hours
hours,
window that you have, these notes that we have, they serve as such a quick revision. Like
Yeah.
even for FA, considering how long and versatile the syllabus was, we essentially revised each and every standard,
like in
right?
maybe 1.5 hours.
Yeah. And like
that's the time you get.
Yeah. So, like for those days, I would say that if you have your notes written, alongside the
Yeah.
printed copy of our notes, that would play such an important role. Like you would be
Yeah.
able to revise everything like
Yeah.
very quickly.
In fact, it was from like one of the students, like just before the exam on like this May attempt, and he mentioned that just before the day 1 exam, he was actually revising all the technicals. Like he was able to revise all the technicals in like 8 hours. So like imagine, just before the exam, if you are actually able to revise the entire technicals in 8 hours, so what better than that?
Yeah.
So yeah, good ideas here. Try to print those notes and even try to make those notes more succinct and summarized, so that you may not even have to go into the notes. Obviously, like one of the good feedbacks that we got for the notes is that students are able to in fact memorize everything. So
Yeah,
yeah,
like with the coffee chats that we conducted for the May attempt, we actually had to tell students that you should use Notia in day two sometimes
yeah,
whenever you know where the technical is, you should use Notia. Like there were people in the coffee chat who are telling us that, we're paraphrasing the technicals on our own
yeah.
because we remember everything.
Everything.
So
That is
like,
also not
yeah.
nice. So,
Mhm.
in fact, so a specific student from the, who attempted May. So when I was reviewing her cases, it was very visible that she had like, she had everything in her memory and she just, wrote that down. But that also didn't help, So you need to balance because
Yeah, you need to have a balance because, like in the example that Ravneet gave, for example, that capitalization question, it is like a 6 or 7 pointer criteria.
Yeah.
It is such a good thing that you remember because you should ideally remember everything because there can be times that you're only left with 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Now at that time you don't have the time to go and search for it in Notia. It is always better that you have that technical in your mind and you can just write down maybe 4 criteria out of it.
True.
And then do your conclusion, financial impact recommendation, and you're done with the question and you still have a chance of getting a C. But if you don't remember it, you can lose out on it. But if you have the time, we suggested the students that if you have time and you know that this is something which is long, and even if you paraphrase, it can take some time.
Yeah.
Why don't you just go to Notia and just copy paste? It will take like only 2 seconds to copy paste, or 5 seconds to copy paste, and then you do your analysis well. Because instead, in front of every criteria, every one of that criteria out of 7, you have to say met and why met.
Yeah.
If not met, why not met? So that will take time, right? So in these situations, when the technicals are long, it's any day better that you copy paste from Notia and then spend that time on your analysis.
True.
Because that is what will give you more marks. So couple of pointers there.
I hope that answers, Sandeep.
Yeah, that's very helpful. Thank you so much.
No worries.
Yeah, but I would still, like the password because every time I'm clicking on the file, that enter password comes in. So I'll ask you for it, right?
Yeah, sure.
I will definitely get it printed. So yeah, that's one.
No worries. Okay.
Okay.
Anyone else wants to go next?
Oh, hey guys, this is Rush.
Yeah.
Hi.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, so what I was saying is continuing to talking about the using the handbook for the FR criteria, right?
Yeah.
So the problem what happens is when I go there, then there's of course so much stuff, and then you figure out whatever is your the FR criteria that you're looking at. For example, revenue recognition, right? Now the thing is, there's too much happening inside the revenue recognition, right?
It's true.
Is there a quick way that you kind of search up? I've heard that people are saying you can search up to what exactly you're looking for, but I don't know how it works. So from your experience, have you used any of the tips or tricks to kind of get to faster result as you would want rather than scrolling around and finding it out where the criteria is?
Yeah, so there's 2 things to that, Adarsh. One thing is that you should take out some time and spend that time navigating Notia. For example, revenue recognition, right? There's bill and hold, there's consignment, there's those 5 steps that you have to follow. So when you know that the topics are this important that they're repetitively tested in the exam, we would say that spend some time going through Notia. We did that ourselves. Like we just sat down and we went through each and every standard in Notia, and not like trying to cram what we can find where. It's just that going through and just familiarizing yourself, because you know how there's, if you go to revenue recognition on the left, there will be so many like sub panes like
Right.
measurement and then
Right.
other
Right.
miscellaneous or whatever. So for example, bill and hold, consignment, these are some things which are tested repetitively. So
Right.
you know, there's no harm in actually sitting and kind of trying to just like memorize and get familiar that, okay, you know, if this question comes, then you know, miscellaneous topics is where I can just go and find it. Because okay, coming on to the second thing, there is a search option in Knotia. I think if when you open your Knotia, it should be somewhere in
Yeah.
the top
Yeah.
right corner. So for
Right.
example, if it's bill and hold, you can just write bill and hold.
Yeah.
It will search for bill and hold in the entire Knotia. So if you go to the
Ah.
left pane,
Yeah.
yeah, you can just go to IFRS 15, for example,
Right.
and in IFRS 15, it will show you which panes the bill and hold word is. So you
Right.
can go by that as
So
well.
like the control find option is not very handy.
Yeah.
Not very
Exactly.
handy.
That's
It
what I
may
was
take a lot of
It
time.
may, yeah, like it may work, but it is not as easy as like you just
Yeah.
write something, control F, and everything will
Right.
function.
In my example, bill and hold is something that
Right.
will not yield as many results.
Yeah.
So it's still easy
Right.
to find.
True.
But in my
Right.
case, I remember there was a financial instrument question, and I think I searched for like convertible or something, and then there was so many results.
Yeah.
Even in IFRS
Right.
9
Yeah.
only,
Right.
there was so many results by
Yeah.
convertible that I
Yeah.
didn't know what to do. So the only like you can, obviously this is the last resort
Yeah.
that you can any day, you know, if you get stuck and you don't know absolutely anything about the
Right.
question, you can use the search option. But then spend some time on Knotia, go through each and every standard and try to look for the important topics. Because when you start writing cases, or if I don't know if you have the course or you know that we do mention that the important topics. So if
Yeah.
you know the important topics, you can just like go one by one and see, okay, this topic is here, this topic is in this pane.
Yeah.
And then when you start practicing cases and going to referring Knotia during your practices, your confidence will, you know, just increase gradually with practice.
Yeah.
Makes sense. So basically, get used to the formatting of how it is laid out on the handbook, right? So
Right.
that's the whole point. No,
Right.
makes sense. So, and when you're copying the stuff, right now, when you're copying the stuff, so there's a whole chunk in within the criteria as well. Like they
Yeah.
have huge paragraphs and stuff. So
Yeah.
I feel like, can we just copy paste those junk as well along with it when it comes with the criteria, or no? Like you cannot just copy the criteria,
Ideally,
right? Like under the
ideally
criteria,
not.
there's so much writing.
Like ideally not. Like whatever
Mhm.
technical material hits you, hits the question, you ideally should copy just that. But obviously, if you're copy pasting,
Couple of paragraphs.
three paragraphs, and only the first and third are relevant. So if
Right.
the second one gets copied away on the way, so that is fine. But generally, you should just hit the right path.
Yeah, just the recognition part, but otherwise, sometimes if it's like too much happening, then I'm like, should I delete the rest or whatnot? So as you're saying, like, if
Yeah.
I need only two paragraphs to say, but there's only three, four, mistakenly copied because it's under that, so it's
Yeah.
fine. So,
Yeah.
and how do we analyze it? So once we copy paste it in
Yeah.
the Word,
Yeah.
then you analyze it right
So try
after it,
to,
or what?
so like whatever you are copy pasting, try to italicize that. And
Oh, okay.
Maybe in bold. Yeah,
yeah,
like
so like
Inverted commas.
whatever
Yeah.
you're copy pasting, try to italicize that. And whatever you are analyzing, analyze in front of the technical material, but in bold and normal font.
yeah, in bold and normal font so that your analysis stands out.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. So right after when we copied, so we italicize whatever we copied, so
Yeah.
to show that this is copied, and then you write on your bold and whatever the number 8, whatever the font is, then you just write in front of that
Yeah.
whatever you analyze. How
Yes.
long you think, on an average for any AO, our analysis? So when I'm analyzing the criteria, right, I don't know sometimes how much to write in the met, not met. So
Yeah.
once you write met or not met, but sometimes your support can be like 2 lines, 3 lines, or 1 line. It really depends. What's
Like
your take
consider,
on that?
we always go to this intangible asset question where you
Right.
need to capitalize an internally generated asset. So,
Right.
those criterias, like those 6 criterias, like the first criteria is technical
Right.
feasibility, right? So
Right.
if in the question, could be just 1 line also, like in the above case, this technical feasibility is met because this. So it can be as succinct, but
Right.
obviously it should address the condition. It shouldn't just say that technical feasibility is met. You need to
You
Yeah.
need to give a
why,
reason.
like that why should be there.
Yeah. But then
Mm.
one thing here, Adarsh, is that, it's the question that you're asking is very subjective, because even in these 7 pointers, it's possible that sometimes in the case they've given like a little hint which relates to say the technical feasibility or the resources or the demand for that that intangible asset in the market. But then but that is only one criteria out of 7. So it is possible that for the other 6, you're only saying met and just a because, which is like one statement.
True.
But for this one criteria where you have that case, they want you to integrate that case fact in your analysis, right?
Yeah.
So maybe for
Right.
that 1 point, you're writing a 2 sentence. So that
Yeah.
it depends entirely on what the case is, how much you want to write. For example, in this example, there were 7 pointers. So
Right.
obviously you're writing analysis in front of each. But then it's not necessary that every time you have pointers, there can be paragraphs. So if there's only this one paragraph, then obviously your analysis could be a little longer.
Yeah,
If
that's true.
there's 2 or 3 paragraphs, maybe you are analyzing each paragraph separately.
Yeah.
For example, if it's like a PPE or something
Like
like
maybe
that.
say in the revenue recognition which you were mentioning, like could be a question distinct goods and services. So like
Right.
you would know that we have two conditions there, right? So whenever you have like less conditions, maybe a paragraph, it is like again very subjective, but like try to incorporate as much as case facts as possible and try to reason out why that condition is satisfied,
Because
why the
that is your
definition.
actual answer. This
Yeah.
analysis is your actual
Like
answer.
technical
Exactly.
material, whatever you're copy pasting or even rewriting on your own or paraphrasing, like that is like that does won't give you any marks there.
Right, right. No, that makes sense. And leads to the question is, when you're writing the criteria, sometimes when I'm just trying to memorize it, I can't memorize it word by word because there's technical jargon, right? Which doesn't stick. Like it stick for now, but doesn't stick like after a week when you ask. So can I do paraphrase it in my easy,
Yeah.
English language?
As
Then I
long,
just
yeah,
write
as
the
long as
meaning
you
of
are
it.
able to convey the message, like in distinct goods and services, there are 2 points. So if you are
Right.
able to convey your message in 1 and 2, sure, go ahead. But like in day 2, always like we suggest as much as copy paste you can
In day 2.
Oh,
on
in
day
day
2.
two. Yeah.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
day 3 you won't have enough time.
Day 3, you won't have enough
That
time to
time.
go to.
And even
No.
they don't expect, and in fact even the questions that would be that would appear in the exam won't be very in depth that you would have to even go
Go
to
to
Right.
those share.
Sometimes they will be as simple as maybe recognition. So all you do is like provide a definition and then recognition,
Yeah.
do your analysis, and that's give the conclusion, financial impact, and that's about it.
Right, right. So for a criteria, we can paraphrase it. We don't have to use a technical jargon exactly word by word. For example, technical feasibility, there's a whole liner. If you see, there's a whole liner for that sentence. But when you say technical feasibility, is that it? If that's good enough, then it's good enough. Then we can just put that, just a little pointers
Yeah.
instead of
But
saying a
like
statement.
one more thing here is that, sometimes I would not call it technical jargon, but there's, some words which are important. For example, like the example of distinct that Ramneet was
Distinct
giving,
goods and
or even,
Yeah.
in terms of, for example, say intangibles in the definition, in the recognition criteria, there's future economic benefits,
Yeah.
there's, if you're able to
Good point.
measure
Like you can't miss out on these
measure
points,
the
right?
quantity or the amount of capitalization ratio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like
Right.
these are the key words, right?
Keywords.
So try to
Right.
remember them. Like
Yeah.
you can obviously paraphrase,
Yeah.
nobody would say anything, but it's always better if you can remember the exact words for just a few of the standards which which are
Yeah.
important in
100%. Like for revenue rec, like collection is collection, so it's easy to remember. You can so measurement is measurement, okay, and then performance is achieved. That's easy to remember. But what I was saying is something like substantive or something weird language that comes in all the time.
Yeah.
That's just so hard to remember every time
Yeah.
when you're trying to memorize.
True.
Okay, so it's possible. No,
Yeah.
perfect. Well, no, sounds good. Thank you so much. Well, can I actually ask another question if it's okay?
Yeah,
Yeah, sure.
Okay, because I think my questions are pretty relatable to each one, and I think it gives a little bit more insight to everyone else.
Sure.
So management accounting, quant, when you're doing on Excel. So when you're putting all your units and stuff and you're doing your quant, sometimes you have to explain your word, right? What that is, the fact.
Yeah.
Can you do on the right side? Because I've seen
Yeah.
people doing sometimes at the bottom, on the right, left, wherever. So I
Okay.
feel easy when you write the number and just write on the right side in one explanation. But I've heard people when they CFE markers mark the exams, they print out and it cuts, so you can't really write on the right hand side of the cell. So
those are like just like myths. So I used to write on the right,
Yeah, even
and
we
that
used
is
to write on
and
the
that
right.
is the most convenient one because you know
yeah,
where what you're writing. Otherwise, you would be doing that referencing.
It's
No, no,
exactly.
formatting
no.
otherwise. You just like
Yeah,
putting one
Yeah,
asterisk and then two and then
yeah.
three, or sometimes giving 1, 2, 3
right.
serial numbers. Just
No.
like do it on the right.
Okay, so perfect. So that's easy. So go always and write in the right because it's in your mind right now, and you can just write quickly, fast, whatever
Exactly.
Yeah,
you're. Oh,
Yeah.
okay, perfect. No, that answers all my questions. Thank you so very much.
no worries.
Anybody else? Does anybody else have any questions?
One question regarding revision for the day two exam.
Yeah.
So suppose you've taken performance management as your elective, then are we just supposed to go through the FA and MA notes, or are we supposed to touch upon some other aspects as well?
No. Day two is all about financial reporting, management accounting, and your elective. So just those. So in fact, when just before day two, when you're revising, so you would already be done with financial reporting, MA, and your elective. So just on day three, you would be left with a couple of more
Other
competencies just to
competencies.
revise. So no, just three competencies just before your day two should be revised.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
no worries.
Another question I think most asked that, what is the good amount of cases that you should write, especially the day one and day two cases?
Yeah,
Do you want to
you
take
go.
it?
Like how
So
many should we read and how many should we like really write down?
sorry, so no read cases. So all we always suggest because you know and this is very common because I received a call like last week from one of the students who was quite anxious. And why? Because they didn't even start writing cases. And why they were anxious? Because they were reading cases and then reading solutions and reading the board issued solutions. So
They're thinking that, how
like they won't
how
be
can
able
I
to
write
achieve.
this?
So
Yeah.
like imagine again you have not even entered the water and then you are worrying that I won't be able to swim. So that is the problem. So sorry about like the diversion of my answer, but do not read cases. So coming to writing cases, day three, the number that we suggest generally 8 to 12, 8 to 12 day three cases, mix of how many you write and how many you get externally marked. Day two should be like 6 to 9.
6 to 8.
Six
Yeah.
to eight. We generally mention at this time, you're still in like mid of June. You can do 6 to 8 range of
Yeah,
cases.
but if you see 6 to 8 is like you're only doing one day two per week,
Yeah.
and that's it. And that's not much
That's
considering that it's a 5 hour case, and
Yeah.
people normally like, hesitate and kind of just keep deferring it.
Yeah.
Just like have this target in your mind that I have to attempt one day two case every week, and that's about it.
Yeah.
Write one day two case and then spend more time debriefing it.
Yeah.
Because the more time you spend debriefing your cases, the more learnings you will eventually take.
True. And day one, whatever cases, one or two, whatever you can, obviously two are there in,
Yeah, the
as
mock cases, there
cases.
are 2 mock cases issued by the CPA Institute
Yeah.
before the exam. So don't miss them. Definitely write those two. But in addition to those two, you can write one day, one case from a previous year. So that will help you kind of practice beforehand, and you know what to expect.
Yeah. And also, one of the most important things here to note, like don't just focus on the number of cases.
Yeah.
There have been students who attempted just 4 or 5 day two cases and they passed. And then there are students who attempted 12 day two cases but couldn't. So they're like the only difference between both of them was the quality of debrief. So when you debrief is, what do you mean by a debrief is like you are checking your own case and learning as to where you could improve. So if you are writing a day two case for 5 hours and debriefing even for 12, 13 hours, like the entire week you just wrote one day two case and the entire week you are just debriefing. So that is perfectly fine because you would learn a lot. You would learn how you could have structured your financial reporting response better, or how you could have saved time, how assurance, because so day two is your assurance focused or your
Elective
elective
focus.
focused exam. So with time you would realize that your first priority should be writing those
Attempting the
yeah,
elective first and
right.
then going to the
And then
FAMA.
going to the balance questions, because you have the opportunity to write financial reporting and management on day three. So, with time you would understand all of this. And when you debrief all of it, and even from where we started, the permutation and combination that you use in the feedback guide, as to how many, if you are given a MA question and you have 6 items to analyze, how many, if you attempt, you would still get a C. So, all of these things you would understand in the debrief. So that is why it is very important.
Okay, so I thought like going through the past exam papers, like suppose I do achieve writing the number of cases that you said, but still, uh, is it a good idea to go through the cases, the ones that I've not written but were tested in the past CFE since 2015? Is that a good use of time?
Mm,
Or
It would just make you feel anxious, because you would always go to a financial reporting case. Okay, if you saw financial instrument, and then you would be like, okay, I don't know financial instrument. And then you would go to the technicals of financial instrument and then revise that for what, like, just to do financial instrument, which appeared maybe once in 3 years, which you are not aware about the cadence of. So like, if you have already done, the cases from 2018 to 2020, 4, like those 6-year cases, if you have already done, you won't even feel the need to go back.
And even for the larger group, you should always have it in your mind then that there will in your on the day of the exam, there will always be, a couple of questions which will be curveballs, and you
Yeah.
can do nothing to avoid it. Like even if you go through each and every case starting 2015 to 2024,
Yeah.
even then there will be a couple of questions in that case which will be curveballs and you
Yeah.
would have no idea about, but you have to be okay with that. And how you will get okay with that is the fact that you will be prepared for the remaining 11 questions
That's true.
to your best, right? How do you get used to those 11 questions? How will you do your best in those 11 questions is by writing and debriefing
Yeah.
those cases, because once you have done enough cases, you would, if you go back and listen to our conversation that we're having today, you would resonate with it that most of those questions will always be repetitive, right?
Yeah.
So if you are covering and each and everything about those repetitive questions, then even if you get thrown those couple of off questions,
Yeah.
you would still not feel anxious, because you would know that I've done my best in the other 11. And by that I don't mean that you just leave the remaining two which you didn't know. You still try your best, you go to
Yeah.
Knotia, you even then you spend that 12 minutes time that you allocated to every question
True.
to even those two questions, and you do your best in them.
Yeah.
Like for example, it happened with us as well, like for me as well.
Yeah.
There were a couple of questions in our day to attempt that we didn't know. What we did was that we first started our exam with assurance. We completed our elective questions.
Yeah.
Then we moved to FA and MA. But I left those two questions that I didn't know for the last,
Yeah.
right? And those will not be your elective questions. Finish with your elective questions
Yeah.
first, because you can't miss even one elective question.
Yeah.
So finish elective, leave those two questions or one question, whatever it is, for the end.
Yeah.
After you've done the entire exam, you will still be so much confident, and you would be like, okay, like maybe just like I'll spend the remaining 10 minutes or 2 minutes out of the 10 to search for Knotia and see if I can find anything about this question.
True.
And trust me, at that time, but with your peace of mind, you will be able to find something or the other to
Yeah.
write, because those questions, they will never be completely off the books.
Yeah.
It will be something that but it's just that you don't know the exact answer to it, so you will write something around it.
And
So
like
focus on the 11 questions that you have to do well.
Yeah.
And not on trying to cover everything.
And the best part about this is that that question would be new for everyone.
Yeah.
So like everyone in the exam would be like, okay, this question of assurance or like procedures on, initial public offering or IPO came. So, everyone in the exam hall would be like, okay, I don't know this.
Yeah.
But you need to be, just be okay. Like, okay, I know the balance. When I get the time for this IPO question, I will maybe go back to Nausea, search for some technical material, copy paste, and then analyze it. So, just focus, because it is, this exam, just remind yourself time and again, this is a very smart study exam. This is not that you just do the technicals and you would be good. So this is not that exam. You just need to have that strategy of time management, what you are focusing on, what is your priority, how you can save time, why date, what is the focus of day two, what is the focus of day three. When you understand all of this, and even what is the focus of day one, why hidden AO is important. When you understand all of these questions together, that is when you would be ready for like CFE, not just the technicals.
Ravneet, I had one more question. I had access to Knotia from my college itself. Could you tell me how do we get access to CPA's Knotia? I mean,
It is as soon as you register. So maybe, I can ask in the group. It's been a while for us, but as far as I recall, once you register as a student,
yeah.
like
No, once you register for the exam,
the
you
exam.
get access to,
At,
yeah, you
at,
get a
at
link.
this point of time, I think you would have registered for the
Yeah,
September exam.
I've
So
got a D2L link, and
yeah,
already logged into D2L, but I don't know where is Knotia exactly.
we can maybe, go back into the chats or, see our emails, and I can help you with that as well.
Okay, sure. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no worries. Good.
Do we
Any
have any other
further
questions?
questions?
Did we have any questions in the chat?
So let's see. Yeah.
Before to your question, we'll share the CPA link that Ravneet was mentioning. You can find all the cases that were tested in the previous years by sequence,
Yeah.
along with the solutions in just that one page. It's on the CPA website itself. So we'll share the link for that.
Hey guys, is there a strong response to those prior CFE cases, or is just perfect solution? Because I hate sometimes perfect solution. I get dive into too much and then it takes
Yeah.
a day to read. So
Yeah, so those others are not publicly available. So yeah, so all you would get is the board issued response.
okay, so CPA doesn't post a strong response.
No,
No.
no.
Right. Okay.
Interestingly, they have this one course. I don't know how many have attended the introduction to Capstone 2 or something like that, it's called. And there they try to give you some cases along with strong responses. They were not tested in the past, but they give you a feedback guide and an Excel sheet wherein you can put in and then. So, are those helpful?
Yeah, surely, like for you at least to understand as to what a strong response looks like. But obviously, when those courses are offered or that introduction is there, at that time, a student is actually not ready to even, understand what does a strong response mean. Like even today, for the students, if they are like, if there is anyone on the call who is for May 26 attempt, whatever we are discussing today, he may not able to, he won't be in a position to absorb whatever we are saying. So although we are, whatever we are saying is like pure gold for like September students, but may not have its worth for the May 26 students. So at this time, if you still have access to those strong responses, surely that would help. So yeah, but
Yeah, I
yeah,
just downloaded all of them and kept
yeah.
it as a backup
Oh,
when they
that's
were
nice.
giving me
That's
lectures.
nice.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah.
So yeah, surely that would help you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you know if you can take external numeric pad, wired one, like mouse you can take for sure.
Yes.
I'm not talking about the keyboard, but talking about the numeric pad only with a numpad, only wired. Do you know if you can take it?
No, you can't.
Only a
Oh,
wired mouse, nothing else.
oh, okay, okay. So, okay,
Yeah.
makes sense.
And that won't be an issue, to be honest. So it is again subjective, depends if things have changed across attempts, but the laptop is like self-sufficient. Like they did have a numeric pad on the right, if I recall. So yeah, you should be okay. And any which way,
Nice.
whatever you get is what you get and would be the same
Yeah.
for everyone.
Okay. And same thing for the calculator. You can take your own and they give you your theirs.
So for calculators,
Yeah, we get the
we
scientific
get the sign
calculators.
from them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, so okay. So we don't bring our own. We
No.
just use theirs. Oh, okay,
So
okay.
yeah, if you are planning to use a calculator, so it is a good practice if you want to use a calculator. So use a scientific one at
Yeah,
home.
the Texas one. Yeah, I use it in my school too in here. So yeah,
Okay.
yeah, same one. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No
Good.
problem.
In your experience, was the Excel formulas easier, or the calculator is better? Because somebody who's not started on any of it, which one would be better?
Excel, for sure.
Yeah. And don't worry, Parnika, I think you would be at that stage when, you have practiced a couple of cases. So don't worry.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
Excel is always better.
Okay. Thank you.
So continuing to the question for the Excel. So when you're doing Excel, I've heard their Excel is pretty bad. The one that CPA provides, it's like a cheaper version of the Excel and the Word, isn't it? So does it have the formulas access just like we have in a normal Excel that we use? Does that
So
Excel include these formulas?
so I would say it is a modified version of the Excel,
Mhm.
and whatever formulas you like normally use, you are able
Right.
to use that. So
Okay, PV and PV and stuff like that.
yeah, true.
Oh,
And
so you can use
any
that.
which
So
ways, any which way, even if you do on a calculator, you have to show how you did that. So not,
right,
so if you are using the PV formula, so if you
right,
use that PV formula in the Excel, that is what the examiner wants. So you have to focus on that rather than using a calculator, because even if you calculate, $1,000 on a calculator, that is of
right,
no use if you're not able to explain how did you
right,
calculate that.
right.
And
No,
it
makes
will
sense.
only take more time to
More
kind
time.
of note all of that down. Because if you're doing a calculation on, like if you're doing maybe say like a simple pro rata, right?
Right,
For things, calculation as simple as that, you don't have to, go on the right and make a note of what you did. Maybe you can if you want, but like that's not absolutely necessary. So, just like do the calculation in the Excel cell formula bar so that the invigilator can actually test that.
Yeah.
makes
And
sense. So I didn't know that you can use the formulas in the Excel, but you
yeah,
can though. So that's good thing to know that, okay, you have that. We have the capacity to kind of practice right now how the formula will go in Excel and just do the same thing in the exam.
yeah,
Okay.
that's right.
Okay. Okay. No, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
We have a question from Astha in finance question. If we are writing a formula on Excel, do we still need to explain the formula working? So like I said, if it's like a very simple, plus minus that you're doing, then you don't have to explain it. But if you're, doing some complex calculation or you're multiplying something by days and then
Yeah.
you're prorating it by the days, maybe say labor cost or maybe say like a fixed cost, a variable overhead, you're doing some calculation there. You don't have to explain the formula, but just in like a couple of words, maybe just mention what you did. For example, if I like maybe like maybe did some calculation with the labor cost, right? I'll just mention that what I did. Maybe I would just like say to the right that maybe I prorated it for 4 months, just like that, just like a simple explanation. That's it. Like you don't have to explain in long sentences as what you did and what was given in the question. Nothing like
Because I
that.
think there is a notion in the market that you have to show what you did, because the CPA marker or the CFE marker would get printed sheets and he won't be able to see your formula. So you have to explain every formula. So like we see so many cases that we receive for marking that the student is spending the entire time in just explaining how he has done the formula rather than just like focusing on the solution itself. So don't worry, like you are okay on that. But yes, be aware that there is this notion in the market. Good. Uh,
It doesn't look like we have any more questions.
yeah. Any final questions, guys, for tonight?
And just so you guys know, like we try to, like have these coffee chats, like maybe in every like 2 to 3 weeks, because we know that we just know, like, we start receiving a lot of questions from students on WhatsApp, and that is when we know that a coffee chat is due now. So we try to have these every 2 or 3 weeks. But then if you have any other questions in between, just like feel free to reach out any of us. I know that most of the students in here on the call have already taken either our crash course or the full package with the case marking. But if you haven't yet, or if you're planning to start and you're looking for a tutor, you can definitely reach out to us. We have a 6 competency crash course which like covers all the competencies in like 20 to 25 hours. And like you've already heard from us that the notes are in Q&A format and they're very comprehensive, so very easy to revise as well. And we've received like very amazing response from the
Yeah.
students in the past.
Yeah.
So
And
yeah,
just
feel free
to
to reach
and
out.
like just to add, like those courses, like one of the questions that we always get, like, do I need to or refer any other resources as well after I take your course? So like this course is complete in itself. So this course, although that's just a 25-30 hour course, but it is complete in itself. You won't have to refer any external sources
Or any other books.
yeah,
It's
any other
just
books.
our notes and
Yeah.
our lectures
And
and
obviously,
case writing.
if you complement all of that with these coffee chats, be in touch with us. We are like access to us is always there in terms of mentorship or guidance. So make the best use of that, and you should be good. And even we are mid of June, people are still worrying about this attempt. But even if you start today, you should be good if you are with us. So yes, be in touch, and we'll keep holding these coffee chats time and again.
And hopefully we'll see you in the next one.
Yeah. Thank you
Okay.
very much, guys.
So all the very best, guys. Just like stay positive, confident, just give it your all. Think of it as a ride or die situation,
Yeah.
and then I'm pretty sure you'll be able to give your best.
Hey guys, do you mind if I ask one more question? Sorry, I have so many questions.
No problem.
No,
Yes,
it's
go
okay.
on,
But
Adarsh.
this last one would be how to learn to write good procedure. Where do you think the resource that I should check? Like, should I just learn from the debrief only, how the
Learn from
CPA is
the
writing the procedure,
yeah.
or what's a better way? Because it doesn't stand logically. Like, you can memorize the procedure. I memorize it if I just fail to repeat it again.
So you need to be aware of what the assertions are. So
Right.
understand the assertions first. So
Yeah.
for income statement, like for income accounts and for balance sheet accounts, understand what the assertions are.
Yeah,
What
that's easy.
but understand like in detail and try to use just one example as a basis. Consider if you're doing inventory. So
Right.
inventory is a balance sheet item. Now
Right.
okay, have in your mind what are the assertions. Try to frame the procedures for each assertion in your mind. Maybe, just use one example and spend maybe 25-30 minutes just on one example. Try to write procedures for each of the assertions and have it in your mind. So when you approach the exam and you get any procedure, so you would know, okay, for like income statement account, these are the assertions, like just in your mind, because you don't have to write there like completeness, accuracy, but in
Right.
your words, those
You should touch upon
you
that.
should touch upon that.
Like what I would say here is that, like actually imagine that you are an auditor and you are standing at a client's place, you're doing, you're verifying inventory. Now, what all will you do to verify it, right? It will like kind of,
Mm.
because like if you go through the CPA Institute's procedures, they can be a little complex, very deep,
Right.
and sometimes very
Yeah.
like verbose as well.
Yeah.
But then if you actually just think of what will you do, you will maybe perform a physical inventory check, you will maybe like look at their logs and do the comparisons, things like that. You will just come up with a couple of procedures on your own, just like that, right? But then one more tip to that is that I think we covered this in our as part of our assurance notes as well. But there's a list of like 5-6 standard procedures which would work for almost every assertion that they test. It can be balance sheet or income statement. So we had separate like standard procedures for balance sheet items and income statement. And what we did was that we just like memorized those, and they were pretty basic. So what happened with that is that whenever we had a procedure question, we would already have like 4 standard procedures in our head. So we'll just start with those 1-2 procedures, right? Whatever fits in there. And then for the other 2, we would just like, come up with what else can we do. There's external confirmations. There can be a physical check for physical assets. There can
Right.
be, like maybe a tick and tie between journals, TVs, and subledgers and things like that.
Yeah.
So
Right.
just try to think it like that and have some procedures
In your
like
mind.
Yeah, try to memorize the standard one and then use the case fact
Yeah.
to kind of elaborate on it. Oh,
derive
okay.
the other 2,
Yeah.
3.
I see. And in day 2, how many procedures you write after each FR?
At least 3.
Oh, at least 3. Okay.
Yeah,
Perfect.
3 to 4 is a good spot, because like always have one as a buffer, because like sometimes it's possible that the key does not exactly include what you wrote in the above 3. So just
Right.
have one as a buffer.
Right. No, perfect. Thank you so much. And that's a final question for me. So
Yeah.
thank you again for your help.
Okay, all right, then we'll wrap up for today. Good night, everyone. Thank you so much for your time and joining in.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll keep in touch. Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.